Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Art 196, an introduction to designing web graphics for the spring semester 2022. Where we left off was with lesson 9, adding various kinds of content. What we will be focusing on to the web page that we designed that then turned into a template. We're creating child pages from that template. What we'll principally be working on today are tables. To style them is a little bit more complex than anything else that we've styled so far. So I'm going to have to pay close attention myself while I'm doing this to make sure that I don't mess up. But before we do move on to this new page, green events and classes, I want to go back to the contact us page that we worked on. Now, I did go back in after we finished my lecture on Tuesday and added the quotes, and I added the content over here. Now, the only thing that you have to remember to do when you import it is remember to change the first line to an H2 tag, and that you're going to wrap the whole thing in a section. Okay, so we can see there's the aside. I go back in here. Maybe we don't need to put it in a section. It wouldn't hurt. No, we're not going to put it in the section tag. We don't need to put that in the section tag. But where I did, what I didn't get to do, which I should have done, is that for this particular style, where we have a border on the left and the bottom, when you scroll down to or resize your screen to a smaller screen, it looks pretty decent until you get to a really small smartphone. And you'll notice that it is changed. And the only thing that we have to do, since we already have our media query that we've created, is that we're going to make a border for the top and the bottom. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have for that none for the overall styling, so that gets rid of everything. Okay, so notice what we have here when we go over. We have border top, bottom, but we don't have the border along the left any longer. It's kind of cramped, and I would agree with them. That works pretty well that way. So those are factors that you have to take into consideration when you're designing your own. So how that is done is that, I mean, if you want, you can move it down to that size, and I can come back over here. And if I look at it, it will be a section because it is in a section tag. Or no, it's not. My mistake. It will be, if I select media queries, what I added was a profile for it. Now, what they want us to do is add margins top and bottom, 5 pixels to the top, 5 to the bottom. And then if we switch to the border on the top and the bottom, okay, top we have a 10 pixel, bottom we have a 10 pixel, but the one on the left, we switch from style to none, so that goes away when it's resized. And that's it. But again, it seems like a minor detail. And in some respects it is, because for most of the screens that you will view your page on, it will appear pretty nice. It will look good, even with the left and the bottom borders. But if you get to a phone that's too small, then what you'll want to do is make sure that you do pay attention to the media query and make the necessary adjustments so that it reads properly on a really small screen as well. So that's the only thing that I wanted to add from Tuesday. Let's go to events finished. So we can look at this. This is events and classes, and where we'll be adding 2 different kinds of tables, and we will be styling them because by default, tables look pretty clunky. They were fundamentally a grid system that you can use to contain data and to organize it, much the same way that when you're working in Excel, You have each of those cells. In fact, that's basically what it is an equivalent to an Excel spreadsheet. Early in the days of web design, tables were used to structure the page, not cascading style sheets. It proved to be an awkward way of adding graphics, rich graphic content. So that's why cascading style sheets were invented or were developed, and they have proved to be a better way to go. The other thing that would make it difficult for if you decided to style or to build your page based on a table, the basic structure of it, is that it wouldn't scale down well. It would just to a smaller screen size. It doesn't work the way that the cascading style sheets do for large, medium, and small screens. It just shrinks down and that's it. Until you style it with cascading style sheets, and then it does. And that's where it gets into some complexity that we'll have to get into with the remainder of this exercise. To style it for a large and a medium screen isn't so bad, but for a small screen, it requires a bit of work. So I don't know that we'll get to that today, but in fact, I don't think we will, probably next Tuesday or even next Thursday. But anyway, that's that. The other thing was about using tables to structure your page is that one of the things that made it difficult is for people with persons with disabilities, that the reader that reads the page to them couldn't read it properly. So that's where we have problems. They were thinking at one point of eliminating tables altogether, but they realized that they do have a function and that they should stick around, and they just worked on it to be able to style it properly so that it would be functional for a person with a disability, specifically, sight. Okay, so this is the finished version. Let's go to events, start file, and I've already begun. I added events and classes. Okay, and I added the text that they wanted here. Okay, now the one thing that we're going to do next is we're going to now add a table. It will be one that it's unformatted, but just to give you an idea of what tables look like, how they function, before we actually take the tables that they have provided for us and copy and paste them inside there. But then where the bulk of the work is in this lesson is styling it to make it work and for a responsive website. So here's the paragraph tag. I'm going to go ahead and add. So I can either add from or insert from up here, and I can insert a table, or I can go over to the right and I can, again, select insert, make sure that HTML is selected, and insert a table from here. Either location, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to come back over here and insert table. Where is it? It's right here. There we go. And I want it to be inserted not within that paragraph tag, but after. Okay. And then when you do, a little dialog box pops up and it asks you how many rows you want, how many columns you want, and that the table width, it can be in pixels or it can be in percentages. If it's in pixels, then it is a rigid width. If it's in percentages, then it's kind of like a pair of spandex pants. It stretches and contracts to fit the size of the page. Okay, we're going to select none for header right now. And the border thickness, we're going to leave 1. It is 1. Later on, we will be eliminating some of the border thickness and adding to it in certain areas for readability. But more often than not, if you leave a border thickness all the way around of 1 pixel, it looks kind of clunky, as you'll see in a moment. So I'll go ahead and I'll click here. And there you go. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit, just two. Now, if I want to add rows or columns to this, with the table selected, I can come down here in the Properties panel, and let's switch from Live View to Design View. And with it selected, make sure that the table is selected. There we go. You'll notice in the Properties panel that we have 2 rows, we have 4 columns. I'm going to leave the 4 columns, but I'm going to add a number of rows to it. And we'll go ahead and we'll add 4 rows, total of 4 rows, and hit the Tab key. Okay. And notice what it does. It adds rows, but it adds them to the bottom. Likewise, when you add columns, it adds column to the right. Okay. So when you add or subtract columns or rows, they will be added or subtracted from the right and the bottom accordingly. Now, if you want to add content, we can come in here. And what they want us to do is we're going to add the first part here, and it's going to be date, D-A-T-E, okay? And I can hit the Tab key and it will go to the next cell. By the way, tables are broken down into columns, rows, and the individual cells that you see here are just that, they're called cells. And when you look at it in the code view, you'll see that it's labeled as TD, which stands for table data. So here's our table row, that's TR, TD, table data, and they do not specify the columns, okay? So here we go, and we have the table itself with the opening tag, and then we'll have a closing tag at the bottom for it. So it automatically adds those elements. And it for each table row and column, you'll see the table data. So I'm going to go ahead and add another one. Let's click back in here again and hit the Tab key. And after that, we want event. I'll hit column again. Notice that every time I add content, it changes the width of the columns. As I said, especially when you're using the width as a percentage, but even when it isn't, it functions kind of like a pair of spandex pants. It will expand or subtract depending on how much content is in there. So let me go back. Let's hit the Tab key, and after event, they want us to put, let me look in here myself, location, put in 2 O's. There we go, hit the Tab key, and it will readjust. And then the last one they want is cost. And I'll go ahead and I'll hit Tab key once again. Okie doke. So then down below, this would eventually become the header. Then down below here, we can add the content by hand if you wish. And it is going to be May 1st. That's basically, and then we can go ahead and hit the Tab key. And I'm in Design View, by the way. And this will be May Day Parade. That's the event. So I'm just typing by hand here. And then location is going to be City Hall. And then the cost is free. Now, some of the things that you may notice here, that the borders around each of the cells, because even though they're only 1 pixel, look kind of clunky, especially when you compare it to the finished version that we'll arrive at soon. In addition to that, you'll also notice that we want to have more control over the widths of the columns. We also want to make sure that the content of each cell, you'll notice that it is flush left. It's centered top to bottom, but to the left is flush left, and we want to be able to control that and move it over a bit. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take one that they have provided for us, and we're going to copy and paste. Now, what you need to remember to do is if I'm copying from live view, then I need to paste in live view, or design view, I should say. If I'm copying and pasting from code view, then I need to copy and paste from code view. So what I want to do first here, and I already opened it up. It's in, if we switch to files and we look here, it's under resources. Here's the calendar HTML. That's what I opened up. And that's what we have right here, okay? And how do I know that it is? That if I click anywhere inside a table, that I click anywhere inside here, you'll see that I have, when I look at the tag selector, I can select the entire table from here, okay? And I can copy it from here, or I can copy it from the code view. I can either copy, go ahead and select the table from down here, and whichever way you want to do it is fine, up to you. I'm going to go ahead and scroll all the way down to the closing tag for the table. That's quite a bit, a lot of code here. Actually, maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just click up here. Let's try it both ways and see what kind of luck I have. So I'm going to go ahead and select from the live view up here. I'm going to select the whole table. There we go. And make sure that the whole table is selected, and I'm going to hit Command C. Now I'm going to go back to the events that I've created here, and I'm going to make sure that I select everything here. So I'm going to select the whole table. And again, I've selected it in live view. Now I don't want the article selected. I want the whole table. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is paste and see if it works. And ta-da, it worked nicely. Now I can go back to, from design view, I can go back to live view, and we can begin to style it. Okay. And some of the styling may already be in here by mistake, but we'll find out soon enough. Okay. So already it's looking much better, and it works really pretty nice. They've already given us a header here for date, event, location, and cost, but there's a bit more tweaking that we need to do. So I'm going to go to CSS Designer and make sure that Green Styles is selected. And what we want to do first is we want to set up some basic styles for tables in general. So what we want to do, and let's make sure that I don't have this here. Oh, I forgot. I know what I forgot to do. We're wrapping all of this table inside a section tag. Got to make sure that we do that. As I told you before, it's a good way to isolate elements or chunks of data and allow you to style them in a more efficient way, so that you can really customize various elements on your page and make them look similar, different, very quickly and easily. So let me select the whole table. And then what I want to do is I'm going to hit Command T or Control T. Whoops, no, I don't want to edit the tag. Let's select here. Try again. I want to insert. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to edit the tag. I want to insert. So let me do that again. Let me go ahead and select the whole table. No, not the article, the table. Don't crash on me. Don't crash. Please don't crash. There we go. So now I believe I have the table. No, I don't. Let me click inside the table. Let's make sure that the table is selected. Sometimes this just is awkward. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that the table is selected, like so. I don't want to edit it just yet, but I need to wrap it in a section tag. So again, I can go ahead to insert or I can come over here with the whole table selected. They don't have this in the the lesson, but I'm going to go ahead and click here. And what I want it to do is I want to wrap the tag around it. And instead of a div, I'm going to name it section. Make sure that I typed it correctly, and I didn't. I added one too many O's. There. So now it's wrapped in a section tag. And if you look in the code view, make sure that it's at the top, just before the table. And if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, okay, the section, the closing tag for the section is after the end of the table. So we're good to go. Now we can begin to style the table. It'd be better to do that way. So now with the table selected, we can go ahead and I'll make sure that it's selected. Table. There we go. Now we're going to come over here to our CSS designer and make sure that green style is selected, global is selected, and then I can come down here and I can add. Let me see if I've already added it, and I want it would be section space table. So I don't know whether this has been added or not yet, because I was trying to preview this a little bit, and it hasn't been. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new selector, and we'll name it section. Again, you go from general to specific. Table. Hit the return key twice. There's just a couple of things that we're going to add in here. One is the overall width. We want it to be not the full 100%, but maybe 95% of the width. So I can select under layout here, under width. We can switch to percentages. Okay. Notice that it shrunk down to 0%. That's a good sign. That lets me know that what I'm adding here is working. So we're going to go ahead and in that percentage, I'm going to go ahead and change it to 95%. Okay, there we go. The next thing that we want to do under type is make sure that we work with a category of type that works well for us. And they already have a group that we can work with. So under font, there we go, font type line. I'm having a hard time. We want the font family. So I'm going to go ahead and click in here. Oh, that's style. Where's the font? There we go, font family. I want the font family. There we go. We want Arial narrow, Arial, Verdana, and sans serif. That's the family of type that we want to go in there. Okay. And notice it already, it's changing subtly, but it is changing nevertheless. Okay. So what are we going to do next? I changed the width to 95%. Margins, we're going to add to the bottom, we're going to add 2 M's. And I'm looking at my textbook just to make sure I'm following their rules. So let's go ahead to go back over here, and we'll go to margins. And at the bottom, we're going to add 2 M's. 2 EM. There we go. Push it away a little bit. Font size, we want to make it under font size. We want it a little bit smaller because we have quite a bit of data here. So again, we're going to use percentages again. And everything disappeared. That's what we want. That lets me know that it's working. 0%. We want it to be 90%. Okay. That brings it back. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter. It works pretty well. Border along the bottom. So let's go ahead in the bottom of each of these. We're going to select that. We only want to add a border along the bottom at the moment. And it's going to be 3 pixels. So the style is solid. The width is 3 pixels. So in pixels, and 3, not 33, 3. There we go. And the color they want to be 060. So we already have that. And I believe it's this green here. Let's see if that's 090. Is it the dark one? Yeah, it's the darker one, 060. There we go. And each time I make the change, we should check it out and make sure that things are working. You can see that there's at the bottom of our table, there is the stroke, and that the columns are lining up nice, and the font has changed. So it's working pretty well. So next, we're going to style the table cells. So we're going to go in and we're going to add another selector now that's more specific, and it will be section table data, section table header. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new one here, add a new selector right here. And I want it to be section TD for table data, and a comma and a space, and I want section TH for table header. There we go. Now we haven't added anything yet. So what we want to do is we're going to add, remember I said that it along the left and the right, as well as top and bottom, it's set pretty tight. We want a little bit more space. So the padding, we're going to go ahead under each of those. Let's go back to the layout here, and let's drop down to padding. We're just going to use the shorthand. So if I put 4 pixels in here, it will add 4 pixels all the way around, and watch how it changes. Notice that it pushed everything just a little bit apart. And by doing that, giving a little bit of air around the text, it's already made it a little bit more readable. So text aligned, we're going to make sure that it is aligned along the left. So let's go back under text, and we want to align it. Text align. There we want it along the left. And that's really already done, but that's the default, but it doesn't hurt to change that. And now we're going to also add a border top to each of these rows. So we're going to go ahead and add a border to that. So this is separate from the table. Not separate, but it's a little bit more specific now. And you'll see that along the top of each of these rows that we will have a nice line that divides them. So the line along the top is going to be, again, we want style is going to be solid. We want the color, I'll do the width next. Notice by default, it uses black. And under thickness, we're going to do that in pixels, and we just want 1 pixel. Oh, come on, I don't want 11, I want 1. There we go. And color, this is where we get to the green. We want 090. So that one now is this green. Okay. Is that the 09? That is the 090. So we're good. So it's already, notice how it's updating and changing. And before I go any further, I want to make sure if this crashes that I can open it up again. And I'm going to go ahead and save all. Good so far. Now we're ready to move on a little bit. Now what we need to do is we need to style the section header. Now we've styled the section table data and section table header, but we want to specify for the table header that it looks a little different. And that will be where we have the date, event, location, and cost. So we want the background of that to be a green, and we want the color of the text to be, as we've used before, a yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and add, again, a new selector for this. And this is going to be section. Make sure that I spell it right, because remember, if you're one character off, it does not work. Table header. That's it. Section table header. I think I got it spelled right. There we go. So now we can customize the table header. So the color that we want for this is going to be, and this is the text. The color that we want is FFC. So that should be the yellow. There we go. And it's going to make it, we haven't specified where our header is yet, so you're not going to see that. And in this particular case, we want the text to be aligned centered, not to the left, but centered. And then what we want to do is the border along the bottom, a solid 6 pixels. So again, bottom, and we're going to come down here, border, bottom, width 6 pixels in pixels. There we go. It's kind of taxing my computer a little bit. There we go. So the width is 6. The style is solid. And the color is going to be, again, 090. So it's this one right here. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to specify, we're going to select for the, we did that. We got to check and make sure again that I got everything. We have green styles, global, and now with hold on here. Oh, you know what? I goofed. No. I didn't goof. I'm right. I'm looking at the wrong place in the textbook. So now what we need to do is we need to switch to, did I make the text yellow? Yeah, we did. And we made the background. I don't think I made the background yet. That green. And that's what I need to do. I need to make the background. That's it. I don't want, we're going to make the background 909 or 90. So there we go. Got to make sure. While I'm talking to you, it's not easy sometimes. Border bottom. Let's look at the border bottom again. And we want that to be, no, I don't want it 0, that one. I want it to be the other darker green. 09. No, I want it to be the lighter one, 060. That's 09. Here, let me, oh, that's 09. Border along the bottom. There we go. I want it to be 06. So let's go here. There we go. So that's what I wanted. Then the background color is going to be, that's where I make sure that it is 060. No, I want it to be 090. My mistake again. So that's where it's the darker color. 0, no, I want it to be 06. What am I? That's 06. That's 09. There we go. Okay. I think I got them right. We'll see in a minute. Because now what I need to do is I need to switch to design view. Okay. And I need to click and drag along the top here to highlight all of those. And they need to be, that needs to change from table data to table header. So let's give that a try. So I'm going to go ahead and change the tag. I'm going to hit Command H or Command T, Control T. Instead of table row, I want TH. And let's see if I get this right. Now let's go back to, from design view to live view and see if it works. No, I just got that one, but it is working, but I need to go back and do that again for all the others. I thought I had selected the others. So let's go back to design view. So make sure that they're all selected. And maybe because in code view, it might be a little bit easier. I only selected the first cell, and that's why. So let's go back, design, split view. And I have the first one, table header, table row. So I thought I had selected them all. Table header, table row, table row, table row. No, let's go back. I want the closing of this tag. There, that is table header. So why isn't it changing it? That's table data. So hold on one second here. Let me pause the recording real quick. Recording. So my mistake. What we need to do is I selected the first cell, and it's easier down here at the bottom in the properties panel. You'll notice that we specify it as a header, and now I should be able to just click and drag or click select each one of these and select header. And it's working pretty nicely now. And you can see that it's reversed out. The header for this that we just styled is working pretty nicely. Perfectly, in fact. And I'm going to make sure that everything is saved. So I'm going to go to File, Save All. Okie doke. So now what we want to do is control table display. And what we need to do is we're going to create 4 selectors, 1 for each row. And they will not be applied yet until we actually do it. Actually define each one of these as date, event, location, and cost, each of the columns. They haven't been specified yet, and we will do that after we create the selectors. So let's go ahead first, and we're going to create the first one, and it's going to be section space dot date. Okay. And then we're going to create another one. It's going to be section space dot event. And then we're going to create a third one that's going to be section dot location. Now, the dot, remember, is that we need to create a class for each of these, and that we haven't specified each of the columns as a class yet. So that's event. and location. And then one more. This will be cost. Section, space, dot, cost. There we go. So now what we need to do is to control each of these. What we need to do is we need to specify the column widths for each. And in addition to that, we need to specify, make sure that each of the columns, for example, is as we specify it to be. So we're controlling the table display now. So to do that, we haven't specified the width of each of these yet, but we're going to specify that this column is date, this one is event, and this one is location, and the last one is cost. So to do that, we have to switch from live view to design view. And now what we do is we click and we drag all along here so we get the entire column selected. There we go. And then we go down here under the properties panel, and where it says class, right now there is none, but we just added a class. So this is the one for date. So we click here and we scroll until we find it. And you'll see that there's a whole bunch of them to choose from, that we haven't used. And those, in fact, are bootstrap. So we're getting to the C, and we're going to scroll down to find ours. Notice that there are just a boatload of them. If I scroll too quickly, things get messed up. Again, because I'm broadcasting to you and it's causing processor to peak. And there it is in teeny tiny type, date. So that whole column now has been labeled as date. Now we need to do the same for the others. And then we can style each of them and specify a certain column width, and then we're set to go. So I'm going to do that for each of the others. We'll see where we're at today. So click and drag here. And this is going to be event. That's the class for it. There we go. So I've got all those selected. Now I do the same thing. Class currently is none. And now I come down here. And this one is, what did I say it was? First one was date. Second one is event. So let's click here. And now let's scroll, and I have to go all the way down to the E's and find our event. And again, I have to scroll slowly because it's going to really tax my computer as I'm speaking to all of you. I'm checking out my activity monitor so this does not crash. So we're still on the C's. I think that's all we'll be able to accomplish today is doing that. We'll continue on Tuesday. We'll see. So keep going. Very tedious. Just run across the date that we did. Now we need to get to the A, B, C, D, E, F. So here's event right here in the teeny tiny type. Oh, I don't want that one. I want event. I want event. Come on. Pardon the silence. I'm trying to concentrate to get this so it doesn't crash on me. I'm going way beyond what I wanted. Oh, now I got to start over again. We've run up pretty close to the hour, so I'm going to allow you guys while I to finish these columns up. And when we come back to it, we on next Tuesday, we will style the columns, go to each one of them, the section date, section event, section location, and cost, and we will specify the column widths on those to tighten it up a bit. As soon as I'm done with all of you guys, I will be able to scroll freely. It's just that when I'm broadcasting and we're recording video live, it is very taxing on my computer. Okay, so we're at 10:53. I'm not gonna make you watch me do this because it'll be painful. But it's the same way. For each column, you go ahead and make sure that's in design view. You click and you drag to select them all. And then you come down to the properties panel and under class, select the appropriate class. Okie doke. So that's it for today. I'm going to pause the recording and I'm going to say goodbye, and everybody have a good weekend. Okay. Okie doke. Do you have any questions before we leave today? No? So slowly but surely, we're styling the table. And my recommendation to all of you is to make sure that you keep these files, because in the future, if you ever need to style a table, this would be the way to go. I think they've done a stellar job in styling the table. And if I were ever going to use a table in my website, I wouldn't hesitate to use the styling that they have applied. Okay. So that's it. I'm going to say goodbye and we're done for today.